Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. We will call the meeting of the DuPage County Board of Health of August 13th to order, and I would ask Penny to call the roll, please.
Ms. Bottoms.
Here.
Ms. Finch.
Here.
Dr. Hussein. I know he's here. I saw him. Dr. Hussein. Yep, he's here.
Here, I'm here.
Mr. Larson.
Here.
Dr. Munir.
Here.
Dr. Scouten. Dr. Scouten. I thought I saw him. There he is.
He's here, yeah.
I see him. Okay. Mr. Spadoni.
Here.
President Tornatore.
Here.
Dr. Weeks. Dr. Weeks, are you there?
I see him.
I see him too, yeah.
Okay. Dr. Wilson.
Here.
Mr. President, you do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Before we get into the public comment, and I beg your forgiveness, I have to read something regarding the governor's executive order. And as follows, it's pursuant to Executive Order 2020-07, 2019 ILEO 20-07 issued March 16, 2020. During the duration of the COVID-19 gubernatorial disaster proclamation, the provisions of the Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 120 requiring or relating to in-person attendance by members of a public body are suspended. Specifically, the conditions in 5 ILCS 120/7 limiting when remote participation is permitted are suspended. For section 2.02 of this act, today's meeting is being conducted remotely and is being live streamed for the public's viewing. This meeting is also being recorded in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. The DuPage County Health Department is the lead agency for DuPage County in response to the global pandemic, and as such is currently closed to the public except by appointment in adherence to public health guidelines and for the protection and safety of the public and staff. Additionally, for all of us, we will be taking all of the votes today via roll call since we do not have a physical quorum as such. But I think with combining and approving a lot of these issues tonight, it should not slow us down terribly much. Do we have any public comment, Penny?
We do, and I have 2 public comments if you'd like me to read those into the minutes.
Certainly, please do.
Okay, the first one is from Jennifer Surwick of Clarendon Hills, and she commented, please ask the Joliet Diocese to stop their plans to send elementary students back to school for in-person learning full-time. The current plan is to send students back in person full-time starting August 24th. Going fully in person could endanger the community by creating an outbreak within the school and thus community. Catholic schools should be aligned with public schools in safety matters. Then we also have a comment from Max Coolidge. And his comment is as follows. To all Board of Health members, here are a few of my questions in which Environmental Department personnel have suggested be in writing in order to receive a proper response. What exactly are the specific provisions being referenced as Article 10.1 paragraph B and Article 3.1 paragraph A for Health Department permit number 8000298, which granted a variance for a daycare and was recorded as R2000-186921, which now seems to allow the CVET Animal Hospital the same use in a residential district. Is CVET Animal Hospital a medical facility? Is CVET Animal Hospital an animal hospital? How, based on responses dated on May 13th of 2019 from the health department, if animals are being hospitalized and stay overnight, would they not be considered a medical facility? Plus, how do they monitor the waste that goes down the toilets based on the same response of May 13th of 2019, contaminant, virus, pathogen? And that concludes the public comments.
Thank you, Penny. Thank you to those who took the time to comment at our meeting. Under President's remarks, very briefly, welcome back. It's been 2 months since we last met. However, as you probably know, the staff at the Health Department has not taken any time off during the 2 months and probably worked as hard as they have in the last 2 years. This evening, we're going to be recognizing the services of one of our Board of Health members, Charlie Thurston. He has made the decision to not seek reappointment, but we certainly wanted to express our appreciation for his commitment and support of public health across the years. His open seat will be filled in the coming weeks through the appointment by County Board Chairman Cronin. Also, we will have an executive session this evening, as if the agenda isn't fun-filled enough. And finally, before I turn it over to Karen under public health updates, I'd like to welcome Chip Humes, our lead lobbyist in Springfield, for an update on his work representing the Health Department's legislative and policy problems. Chip, I know you're with us. I saw you somewhere. There you are.
It's somewhere in the sea of tiles, Sam.
There you are. All right, Chip, take it away. Thanks.
Sure. So I'll be brief as best I can. I know there's a lot on the agenda, but I certainly appreciate the consideration, Mr. President, of yourself and the board to continue to advocate on your behalf in Springfield, and most recently via Zoom and phone call with the governor's office and IDPH and other government agencies. So just kind of a general overview. Any of you who follow the news understand that this is a very interesting time in Illinois politics. It seems like every time we say that, and then between now and the subsequent meeting, things get a little more interesting. There's some real talk of change at a leadership level in the House. That's very much up in the air these days. We have a lot of folks in the news these days for reasons that we would prefer they not be. So not to mention all the COVID madness, but obviously still this is a very tumultuous state politically. And I'll just kind of leave that there. But I just wanted to kind of commend briefly Karen and Dennis specifically, because they're the primary points of contact for myself. They have worked tirelessly throughout this pandemic. It's been my pleasure to help them at whatever level that I could. But I've said all along, and I've said it on the county side, that I think DuPage is a model for the state for a lot of reasons, but especially with our COVID response. It was quick, it was thoughtful, and it's continued to be consistent. This is something that has become kind of a political football, unfortunately, at every level of politics. You're all aware of that. I think we've done a really good job here in the county, and this goes to the health department, also the county board members on the call today or on the Zoom today, to keep the politics out of responding to the pandemic. So I commend you all for that. It's been a real pleasure. This session this year was obviously very abbreviated based on COVID-19. There were a feverish 3-day session in May where a budget was passed, relying very, very heavily on some new federal borrowing authority, also relying heavily on the yes vote on the ballot question coming up here in November of the progressive income tax. If those things don't come to fruition, that budget is substantially out of balance. And I don't have a crystal ball for anybody on the phone or on the Zoom to know if that'll pass or not. I think the federal lending is probably pretty solid, but that's a short-term solution. So one of the most important things from our perspective that we worked so hard on and really had the honor of just a substantial champion on this behalf this session was the allocation of $5 million for our mental health treatment facility. That was memorialized in the statute for the capital bill. I have to thank Representative Deb Conroy, worked very, very hard for a long time. And Karen and Dennis know that we tried to get this done in veto session over the summer. There's an incredible amount of leverage that was put on this very worthy project. And when you look at what's in the capital bill, I think there's probably nothing more important than investing in the mental health of the residents of DuPage. So great work by everybody here on Zoom. And I can't publicly thank Representative Conroy enough for everything that she did for us for this project. So that being said, just so everyone understands, and I'm happy to go into this offline with anyone a little more in depth, but that is in a Rebuild Illinois $45 billion capital program that is slated to be paid out over 6 years. The reason it's being paid out over 6 years is obviously the state of Illinois does not have $45 billion cash right now to pay the plan out. So that money is bonded out. The two different bills, one is vertical construction, which is applicable to us, is bonded off of casino revenue. Obviously, these days, the casinos have just turned back on. The machines just turned back on. They have not awarded any of the new casinos, the Chicago Casino, the Rockford, Waukegan, and the South Suburban, and the two southern ones. Those will generate the revenue to bond out to fund the substantial part of this capital bill. So where does that leave us now with our $5 million? Right now, there's somewhere between $300 to $500 million of that capital bill available. So obviously, 45 billion allocated, 300 to 500 million available. It's a race to see who can get the money released first. So Representative Conroy has made the request of the governor's office that our $5 million be released, so we could start the project right away. That ask was followed up by Majority Leader Greg Harris from the House, saying it was a House request. I know they have followed up. And I know we've put our own request into the governor's office from the health department to try to get that money moved as fast as possible. So step one is getting it in the bill. Step two is getting the money actually released. So we are all hands on deck on that project now, trying to get the money actually in hand. So we have champions that are advocating fiercely for us, but it was a big win last year. We're really proud of it. It took a lot of work, and I give Karen and Dennis quite a bit of credit for all the follow-up. And we've enjoyed some great legislative champions. Karen, I'll let you kind of expound on this, but Representative Conroy, Representative Villa have been very, very good for us of late, and we're blessed to have them. So I don't want to continue to talk. So Karen, Dennis, I'd be happy to take anyone's questions, but that's just my brief overview. So thanks for having me with you tonight.
Thank you, Chip. Does anyone have any questions of Chip or comments of Chip? About Chip? About his beard?
Yeah, there's a pretty long list of people that have concerns about the beard and the length of the hair too, Sam.
I see Dr. Wilson with his hand up.
Yeah,
I
I was speaking with one of my representatives at one of our DuPage County Med Society meetings about a month or two ago, and she wasn't so sure that the money would be that readily available. So I just want to make sure I heard you right. Now I know the $5 million was designated for this project, but you're saying this money is going to be released like right away, like within the next few months?
No. I wish. What I'm saying is that we're doing everything we can to get this money released quicker rather than later. And there's about a pot of somewhere between 300 and 500 million available. I don't know how much of that has been eaten up yet, but we're trying to be included in that initial outlay. So we're trying to get it released as quickly as possible. Our goal would be the next couple months. Unfortunately, that's a little bit out of our control. So we're leveraging everything we have to try to get that money kicked out to us sooner rather than later, because it is always a race in these capital bills. No one trusts just because it's in statute, right? Doesn't historically mean everything gets funded. So with the commitments that we have, I think our goal is to get out as fast as possible. That's what our intention is.
Okay, because I'm really excited about this crisis intervention unit type of thing that we'd be using the money for. But we have so many things on our plate right now that if you release the money, I'm not sure we'd be ready to put the shovel in this project, and then we need some more money to go along with it. So it's kind of a complex issue. But thank you for all the work you've done, and I hope that when the money is ready, we're ready for it too.
Yeah, and if I could just add, I think Chip is always very complimentary, and it's very much appreciated. But I too have found, Chip, you to be remarkable to work with. Your ability to grasp the very basic concepts that sometimes we overcomplicate in public health, and then know exactly the next step to take and who to speak with. And then getting us in front of those people has been incredible. And I like to think of ourselves as a pretty tough act to deal with once we get all of the wheels going in the same direction. So thanks so much.
Anyone else have any comments or questions of Chip before we release him to dinner? All right, well, just very briefly, Chip, thank you so much for all you've done. Dennis and Karen have been your primary point people, but I know what you do, and we know what you've done from the county's perspective. We know what you've done for us, and we couldn't be more well represented in Springfield by anyone. And we thank you for all your work, and we thank Representative Conroy. Please, if you see her, give her our best, and hopefully we'll get a chance to see her sooner rather than later when the pandemic is over.
Sure. Yeah, no, I thank you, Sam. It's a pleasure to represent you guys, and thank you for what you do. You guys have been front and center with everything COVID related these days, and it just proves why DuPage is such a great place to live. So I appreciate the opportunity, and I think all of you know how to get a hold of me, so I will let you go back to your meeting, but if you need anything, please let me know.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chip.
Good night, everyone.
Okay, moving on, we're going to move into the public health update regarding community COVID-19, and I'm going to turn it over to Karen.
Great, thanks so much. And Adam is going to pull up, instead of simply talking through some of our initiatives and strategies to respond to COVID through the talents of our health promotions team, we've actually developed a 5-page document that I'll just go through very briefly, and then we will send out to you. It highlights some of our high-level, high-focused, high-profile kind of response. So clearly, are providing and support and technical assistance across multiple sectors has been a top priority. We need to build the capacity of our key partners within the community to understand what needs to be done. So we have continued to have meetings with the local leaders listed. But beyond that, we've provided increasingly technical assistance to sector-specific areas. One of the first that we stood up was our business response team. We established it in early April. They've responded to nearly 500 businesses to date. We receive 10 to 15 inquiries per day. And again, when we have moving from one phase of the reopening plan to another, we see that the volume of calls and interest expands as well, and we start getting more volume. This team is the one that does the follow-up with businesses who we hear complaints on, or people go into a business, or there's a football playoff or football camp at a park in DuPage County, and it brings lots and lots of people to it. This is the team that responds. And so it's primarily made up of our environmental health staff, but we couldn't be as responsive without that. The next team that we have developed is the school response team. This is the one that we are completely immersed with schools right now. The idea of reopening, especially with unknown risk, has brought lots and lots of questions. Again, we have had over 400 contacts with schools. We are, I am sure, on an increase with 30 calls plus per day. We find that regardless of the guidance that's coming out from CDC or IDPH, there are always questions about how to implement, as well as situations that we never dreamt were going to be coming up. So, Andrea Gargani, who's on with us this evening, heads that team up with our marvelous school nurse supervisor, Bev Gavednik, and a team of individuals. We anticipate that we will be expanding this team in the upcoming weeks as school does reopen in whatever form that we see happening. The next area is actually our community-based testing site. Lori Carnahan has become the point of contact and the administrative lead for this effort. You will see that since our opening on June 16th, we have nearly, well, now we have way more than 14,000 tests performed. Tuesday, we operate Tuesday through Saturday, and Tuesday is by far the busiest day of the week. We have an average positivity rate for the time that's listed there of under 3% at this point. And then you'll see that through our variety of media and social media outreaches, we've reached almost 500,000 people now with either videos or information on this testing site. You'll also see on the next page that we have had residents from every, I believe, every DuPage municipality, with the vast majority coming from Wheaton. However, we know that just by virtue of being located in Wheaton, some of our more marginalized communities around the county and community members are not able to make it to this site. So we're continuing to work with the state on bringing temporary sites or pop-up sites, as well as developing mobile testing sites ourselves going forward. And then finally, we have our case investigation and contact tracing program. Dr. Chug and her team, Liz Murphy, head this team up. We also have added with our grant award of $4.9 million from IDPH, an additional support, an entire support team to bring on about 120 additional staff members. Certainly the metrics of the number of case investigations that have been completed since early May, that's closer to a year's worth of work for this area, and they've done that in a couple of months. They also are the people who are on call 24/7. Granted, you have to work a little harder if it's 2 o'clock on a Saturday morning, but they are available to answer questions as needed. On the right-hand side, you'll see that we're developing additional information to really promote the Answer the Call media campaign. We're finding that people are not wanting to talk with us after a positive test for a variety of reasons. One of those is that the state has instituted that this 312-777-1999 is the number. So they see a number coming in from Chicago area code, don't recognize it and don't pick up. So we are promoting through an intentional media campaign to try to get that message out, because we absolutely need to talk with those individuals. So far, we've trained 75 of our existing staff. We've also hired on 30 staff to support this team. So they too have been very busy with our COVID response. Any questions on the DCHD COVID response? If not, if I could just, Chris, if you could pull up quickly our dashboard so that we could walk through some of the more recent updates that we have done?
Sure, should be up now.
Yes, I see it. Can you walk us through?
Sure. So you're hopefully familiar with the dashboard now. This has been the tool we've updated every day since March or April when we launched it. It's been a really valuable tool for us to be able to communicate. We've gotten good feedback about it, so hopefully it's useful to you. And if you see things that would be useful to share with folks, please let us know. Karen indicated we've seen a rise in cases. We're up to 12,500 now. Today actually is the 5-month anniversary. Our first case was Friday, March 13th. So think back 5 months and we've had 12,000 cases and over 500 DuPage County residents lose their life to this. This is really a remarkable situation in DuPage County and around the world. A couple new features that I'll just highlight for you today. One, based on the schools going back, we've added some information here on the left side about 0 to 19 cases, highlighting the number of cases within those age groups, which reflect some of our learning groups, and the superintendents were really interested in that. And you'll see that overall, the largest number of cases we've had diagnosed is in that 20 to 29-year-old age group, which really underscores some of the work we've been doing to try to educate bars, restaurants, social gatherings about the need for physical distancing, wearing masks consistently, and staying away from places if you feel ill. On the bottom there is the case counts. I'll blow this up just to give you perspective on the rise we've seen over the past 7 weeks or so. Back in June, things were looking great. The last time we met, we were looking very positive. And you'll see that over the past 7 weeks or so, we've seen the case counts consistently and steadily rise. The 7-day rolling average has tripled from its low point down in the end of June. So this has been consistent. It's something we watch every day and are trying to help people understand that every one of these cases is somebody that could be out there transmitting disease. So we're really watching for severe outcomes, but any number of these people could be transmitting out in the community. Highlight the fact that the positivity rate is reported here. So we've had a lot of questions from people about where they can find that. Just a reminder that it's on the dashboard here. New this week, and the last thing I'll highlight here is that we've added up in the top right corner here, the ability to drill down into a specific town, really to see the impact there, or a date. So we know these numbers are staggering. At some point, they become kind of overwhelming. So we wanted to give people the ability to look at, just a particular window of time, especially recently. So you can drill down a little bit further into a specific period. So if I look at just the past 12 days, you'll see these charts will update to reflect just what we've seen then. So just in the past 12 days, we've had over 1,000 cases. The majority of cases in these two age groups, 10 to 19, 20 to 29, and you'll see an update in terms of the hospitalizations and deaths as well. So we have had hospitalizations. Thankfully, they remain lower than they were in the spring, but we're really cautiously watching that to make sure that we don't see increases. And one of the suspicions is that these younger cases that are happening now are seeding transmission in other areas, and it may take a little bit longer for us to see hospitalizations as they transmit to people at home or coworkers, colleagues, other people that they're in contact with. So we're watching those carefully. And the information is here for you to follow along with us, or for you to share with groups that are looking for DuPage specific data. And we very much appreciate the county's GIS folks and our own communicable disease and epi team that really spends a lot of time pulling this data together to make sure that we reflect back to people what's happening here in DuPage. Anything else you want to highlight, Karen, or questions?
No, that's great. Any questions? Okay, great. I will turn it back over to you, Sam.
Okay, thank you, Karen. And just to a quick follow-up to that, every Monday, Karen, Chris, Dr. Chug, myself, and usually Chairman Cronin are on a conference call with all the mayors and managers within DuPage County. They are given updates by Chris using the dashboard, invited to ask questions. You can imagine what some of the questions have been throughout the months, initially beginning with when can we get our businesses open? Why is this happening? When can we get our pools open, et cetera? Now, of course, we're finding that some of those questions are being shifted toward why aren't our kids in school, or when can they get into school, or how can we deal with it? So they do a remarkable job, not only with the information, but being able to answer some, shall we say, interesting questions that come from some of our elected officials. Also, just to let everybody know, the county board has universally given our health department nothing but acclaim and kudos in how they've handled the pandemic. The county board representing the people in DuPage County, whether you're Republican, Democrat, a new person, or someone who's been on the board for a long time, universally our health department has gotten rave reviews. And today, and I've just got to share it with you, we had an unintentional commercial, if you will, for the testing site. I was in court this morning, and one of the people that I was prosecuting was going to go to jail. And he couldn't surrender unless he was tested negative for COVID. And he wanted to know where he could get tested as quickly as possible so we could go in, surrender, do his 10 days and get on with his life. And someone said, oh, you can go over to CVS. And then I chimed in. My brother went to CVS when he came back from spending the winter in an island, and it took him 14 days to get his results. And I said, we have a testing site right down the road. You can go there and they'll probably get your test back rather quickly. And the clerk who was in the courtroom chimed in and said, oh yeah, I was there last week and I got my results in a day. So we told him, head over there, get it done. Maybe by tomorrow, you'll be lucky enough to get your results so you can go right to jail. And it was funny, but it was a testament to how quickly we have come from having no testing sites in DuPage County to one that has done thousands of tests with a turnaround time, which is virtually unprecedented given the amount of time that it takes some of these other places. So again, Karen and Chris and everybody at the health department and Lori who worked so hard to get this testing site. You should know that it's working and people know about it. Yes, Dr. Wilson, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Over in Willowbrook, in fact, Karen was there. We had a little press conference when the Willowbrook testing site was opened. And I thought, well, I haven't been tested. It'd be kind of interesting to see how it works. So I had my brain teased with the test that went way beyond recognition. And 2 weeks later, I hadn't heard. I talked to them and I said, now, do you just give positive results or you give positive or negative results? And I said, no, we'll let you know either way. 2 weeks later, I hadn't heard. So I thought, well, maybe I better call. And they said, well, we'll get back to you. You know, it takes a little while to get the results. And finally, within the next 48 hours, so it was over 2 weeks before I got my test results. So I'm glad to hear that they're on the county property. We're getting faster test results, but that's not the case around the county, I don't think.
Yeah, it is a very real concern, and we're tracking that very closely as well with school reopening. So, yes.
Okay.
In the Willowbrook site, I'm sorry, Sam.
Go ahead,
is the Willowbrook site a part of the part of our initiative as well, or is that a totally independent site?
It's completely independent.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, Sam.
No, that's quite all right. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Karen. Moving on. Well, moving on to approval of the minutes. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of June 11th, 2020.
So moved, Lanny Wilson.
Okay, there's a motion by Dr. Wilson, seconded by Mr. Larson. Any additions, corrections, or deletions to those minutes? Okay, roll call, please, Penny.
Dr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Bottoms,
Yes.
Ms. Finch,
Yes.
Dr. Hussein,
Yes.
Mr. Larson,
Yes.
Dr. Munier,
Yes.
Dr. Scouten,
Yes.
Mr. Scudoni,
Yes.
President Tornatore,
Aye.
Dr. Weeks.
Aye.
Mr. President, the motion passes.
Thank you. The minutes are approved. Moving on to the treasurer's report. Mike, I presumably want to turn it over to you at this point, and then we'll entertain them. Or should we just move to approve the May 31st report and go on? Well, Mike, let me give it to you.
Read the June treasurer's reports. And as of June 1st, the Health Department general fund balance totaled $21,706,107.52. Receipts for the month totaled $10,949,032.16, and disbursements totaled $3,039,002.68, leaving a month-end total in the Health Department general fund of $616,137. Combined balances in all four health department funds as of June 1st, totaled $28,975,724.82. Combined receipts for the month totaled $13,249,256.56, and combined disbursements totaled $3,429,957.11, leaving the combined balances in all four health department funds at $38,795,042.27. Investment earnings recorded to the general ledger in the month of June for all four health department funds totaled $9,895.69. Including the June earnings, year-to-date investments in all four funds have totaled $205,708.25. Any questions?
Sam, you're on mute.
I'm on mute. There we go.
Yep.
Any questions or comments of Mike on the treasurer's report? Okay, there being none, is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So moved.
And second.
Motion by member Larson, a second by Dr. Wilson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Larson,
Aye.
Dr. Manier,
Yes.
Dr. Scouten,
Yes.
Mr. Spadoni,
Yes.
President Tornatore,
Aye.
Dr. Weeks,
Aye.
Dr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Bottoms,
Yes.
Ms. Finch,
Yes.
Dr. Hussein.
Yes.
Mr. President, the motion passes.
Thank you. And the treasurer's report is accepted. Moving on to consent items, I'll entertain a motion to approve the one personal transaction item we have on tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Wilson, seconded by Mr. Larson. Roll call, please.
Dr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Bottoms,
Yes.
Ms. Finch,
Yes.
Dr. Hussein,
Yes.
Mr. Larson,
Aye.
Dr. Manier,
Yes.
Dr. Scouten,
Yes.
Mr. Spadoni,
Yes.
President Tornatore,
Aye.
Dr. Weeks.
Aye.
Mr. President, the motion passes.
Thank you. And the item is approved. Moving on to action items. Item number one is a resolution and recognition of Charlie Thurston. And we talked a little bit before we started. Charlie was one of the first people I met when we were on. I had the pleasure for a couple of years of sitting between Charlie Thurston and Dr. Weeks, and we had a lot of fun. And Charlie's a great man. And to that end, I've got a resolution of commendation to read, which should be about 50 more pages, but we're gonna limit it to one. So bear with me for a few moments, if you would. Resolution of commendation for Charlie A. Thurston, a Board of Health member. Whereas Charlie Thurston has dutifully served the DuPage County Board of Health for 17 years as a valued and trusted board member. And whereas Charlie Thurston worked 39 years for Nicor Gas, ending his professional career serving as Vice President of Governmental Affairs. And whereas Charlie Thurston has served DuPage County in a variety of leadership roles and is one of the founding members of the DuPage Community Foundation, serving as president in 1986. The foundation's mission is to foster philanthropy, connect donors to area needs, and build community partnerships. And whereas Charlie Thurston has also served on the board of directors of the Ray Graham Association, a trustee on the board of Illinois Benedictine University, and is a former board member of the Urban League in Aurora, and in 1977-78 served as president of the DuPage County branch of the NAACP, where he was instrumental in growing the scholarship fund substantially that resulted in many high school graduates being awarded four-year scholarships and grants. And whereas Charlie Thurston was recognized in March 2016 at the Board of Health meeting by the Illinois Department of Health for his extensive community service and specifically for this commitment as a Diamond Youth Foundation Advisory Board member, whose mission is to provide scholarships and special assistance to youth in the western suburbs of Chicago. And whereas Charlie Thurston has been a leading advocate and voice for both diversity in the workplace and in positions of professional leadership. And whereas Charlie Thurston, during his extensive career serving in leadership roles both professionally and in his civic engagement, has been a trusted voice of guidance and has shared both his knowledge and expertise to various matters concerning the health and well-being of the residents of DuPage County as a respected member of the Board of Health. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Sam Tornatore, Board of Health President, and the members of the Board of Health do hereby congratulate and thank Charlie Thurston on his 17 years of service to the DuPage County Health Department, the DuPage County Board of Health, and the residents of DuPage County. Proclaim this 13th day of August 2020 in Wheaton, Illinois. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
And second.
There's a motion and a second. We're not going to take a roll. All those in favor?
Aye.
Universally.
Yay.
Charlie, you're going to get an ovation, will you?
Thank you.
Charlie, we're going to miss you. You have the floor, my friend. If you have anything to say.
Well, I certainly have appreciated the 17 years. I've seen that health department grow from what it was to what it is now. And here now it's second to none. Anyway, I don't know of anyone that doesn't respect the Board of Health. The timing is such we have this crisis where we can, or you can stand up, be counted, and be charged with responsibility, and it's really good to see the Board of Health progress to where it is now. So good luck to everybody, and I hope I can see most of you in passing in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie. Be well. Be well. Thank you so much. Okay. Moving on. We'll be dealing with item 8.2. I'll entertain a motion to a revision on the vacation policy in the employee handbook.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Larson, a second by Dr. Wilson. Any questions or discussions regarding this change in the employee handbook dealing with vacation time and the like as a result of the pandemic? There being none, there's a motion and a second. Penny, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Larson,
Aye.
Dr. Meunier,
Yes.
Dr. Scouten,
Yes.
Mr. Spadoni,
Yes.
President Tornatore,
Aye.
Dr. Weeks,
Aye.
Dr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Bottoms,
Yes.
Ms. Finch,
Yes.
Dr. Hussein.
Yes.
Mr. President, the motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8.3, I'll entertain a motion to approve the fiscal year 2020 budget amendment.
So-
There's a motion by, was it Dr. Wilson?
Yeah.
And a second by whom?
I'll
Member
second.
Larson. Okay, there's a motion and a second. We'll have a little bit of discussion. I'm going to turn this over to Mike. Mike, if you can explain to us a little bit about the budget amendment, and then anyone that has any questions.
Thank you, Sam. As addressed in this month's Board of Health agenda packet, the Health Department budget will be amended to allow for acceptance and spending of substantial funds tied to the COVID response efforts. This, to my knowledge, is the first time in department history that we've needed to amend the budget. Just want to assure you the controls are in place for these funds to make sure that they're used appropriately, including the following. First off, the financial accounting software and procedures will be used to isolate the funds in grant applications accounts, only to be used for accepting and spending the new COVID-related grants. Second, as always, the Board of Health will be asked to accept these agreements, thus providing approval to spend these funds as designed by the grant awards. The point, there is just under 22 million in COVID-related grant awards on this month's Board of Health agenda. And finally, Health Department procurement policy rules will govern how these funds are spent. This month's agenda includes just over 6 million in COVID-related procurements that will require Board of Health approval. Finally, with your approval tonight, this amendment will go to the county board for approval on August 25th. Are there any questions?
Okay, just if I might expound a little bit on it, because Bob Larson and I have been pretty involved in this at the county level. For those, there may be some who don't realize what's transpired. The County of DuPage has received $161 million in CARES Act money, COVID relief money, to be distributed essentially as the county and through the county board determines is the appropriate distribution. Board of Health and health-related issues have been the #1 priority in terms of where that money is going. There have been, obviously, as you can imagine, a variety of entities that have asked for a piece of that pie, be it municipalities, the health department, the county itself, schools, parks, library boards, you name it, everybody has money and expenses that they would like to have reimbursed. The money can only be used for COVID-related expenses. They must be expenses that were not budgeted in the prior budget, and the money has to be spent by December 31st of 2020. Whatever money is not spent, that the county has not distributed by December 31st, 2020, at least as of today, under the Treasury guidelines, has to be returned to Washington. There's been significant discussion among the municipalities and others as to what is a COVID-related expense. How do we determine what a COVID-related expense is? Who vets that COVID-related expense? The county board has decided that they would hire an independent third party that would act to vet, if you will, the requests from the various entities for reimbursement of their COVID-related expenses, and that includes the health department. And the reason we're obviously or seemingly amending the budget tonight is to ensure that our records reflect not only the money that's coming in from the county, but the money that's going out on various expenditures and reimbursements that the county will make from those care funds. I can tell you that the procedure that we have set in place on the health department side is truly second to none. And I'm going to have Adam just briefly show you how we get to that. But as I indicated earlier today in executive committee, we have had some requests from some taxing bodies at the county for reimbursement of money. If I said it was on the back of a cocktail napkin, I'd probably be a little bit less than honest, but pretty darn close to that. Okay, we need money because we did X.
I was going to say, I thought you were being generous.
I am probably being generous, but I don't want to get sued. But the reality is, the difference between that and what we've established as our procedure is like night and day. So to that end, Adam, if you want to run through for the board briefly what you took us through at executive committee, I think they'll find it extremely interesting.
Absolutely, sure. So can you all see my screen right now? Is that working?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So yeah, as Sam said, that the county board had generously earmarked about $16.5 million for the health department, which we know is a lot of money, and it's important to do this right. So we thought, with Sam's guidance, that providing one example to kind of illustrate our process would really reassure everyone, what the checks and balances and controls that we have in place are. So one just quick example, we have this one we've created, which is really based on the guidance that was provided from the U.S. Treasury Department. And we pulled language directly from their guidance documents and created an internal form and process to navigate this in a compliant and effective manner. And so the example that I have for you here is, for instance, working with Luke, our IT director, and moving forward on getting more technology to enable telework. We have for this project and for every other that you would list kind of the category, what you're actually trying to buy, cost centers set up for these things. And then, you're estimating the amount for your desired procurement. You're providing a description of what you are doing with those funds and why they're necessary. And then, from the compliance perspective, any expense that we have or we're trying to apply these funds to first has to pass this initial eligibility test. And a few of these things here are what Sam mentioned, that this is truly due to COVID-19. That it's not in our prior most recently approved budget, and that it's spent before the end of this calendar year. And so as long as the expense can be reasonably assured that they fit in those criteria, you kind of move on to the next eligibility category, and you make sure that at least one or more of these boxes is checked so that we know categorically it is something that we believe and understand is approved use of these funds. And so again, in this example, we know that some CARES money is allowable to spend that money to support telework. And that's what you're looking at here with Zoom licenses. And so for our process, the preparer, the director of that program or that project, in this example, Luke, he put his form together. And then from there, it goes on to our business services manager, Pat Flaherty, who's our procurement expert. And Pat will always make sure for us that due diligence is covered here, our procurement policy is followed, and that there's some explanation there before it's moved along to Mike. So if this is a working example, of course, I think the memorialized document is in Pat's files, but Pat would sign off here, and then it would go to Mike. And Mike would make sure, as our finance director, that those funds are allocated appropriately, that they are there in the budget, that it fits with everything that we've got planned, and then finally going to Karen for final approval and make sure that that's all signed off on. And as Sam said, this is just our part and our process that we've set up on the health department side. Of course, we really have an excellent partnership with the county administration and the leaders there. They've again supported our needs and the fact that this is a public health emergency, and very, very supportive of that. But it's been, more specifically than that, sort of establishing an agreement between the county administration and the health department, and working directly with their finance team and the county auditor's office to make sure that we're providing all the information and documentation that they need as well. So I think that's about everything. I'll stop there and see if there's questions or turn it back to Sam.
I just want to chime in. I like the controls a lot. I think it's important. I raised some concerns earlier. It's a lot of taxpayer money that we're being held responsible for here. I just want to make sure that we're comfortable. If, certainly if there's a need, we should absolutely spend the money. There's no doubt about that. But if we get to 12/15 and we feel like we've met the needs of the health department, are we confident and comfortable returning any of the excess money that we don't need?
Karen, you want to answer that before I do?
Sure, absolutely. I don't think we're after spending money simply to spend money. We are on a flip side of that. We are looking for opportunities to make sure that we leverage this opportunity that is available to us, so that in the event of another pandemic, which involves a respiratory illness, that our HVAC systems are up to date, that we have the ability to continue to provide services from remote locations, so that clients aren't exposed if they come into our buildings and things of that nature. But we absolutely are very diligent and intentional in our spending of those dollars, because not only are these taxpayer dollars, they're federal taxpayer dollars, which comes, from a whole nother set of scrutiny. And so we are approaching this as if we were going to be in the room with the with the fiscal audit team, asking the really challenging questions to make sure that these expenses are not only justified, but they really are being spent to build the capacity and the intent of the funds being granted in the first place.
Great. Thank you very much, Karen. I appreciate that. I know you guys are going to do a good job. It's simply our role to ask these questions.
You're absolutely right, Lori. And just to expound on that a little bit, not only do we have a number of sets of eyes at the health department regarding these expenditures and the request for reimbursement, but we have the auditor at the county. We have the third party independent company that we've hired at the county to vet these. We have the county board, which will be looking at it. And we're also looking at it with any number of sets of eyes, because we have been told by our federal lobbyists at the county level that more than likely we're going to get audited. We could just expect it. And that we have to be sure that any of the money that has been dispersed from the county to anyone, including the health department or municipality or a fire district, has to be within the Treasury guidelines. And if not, the county is responsible to give that money back. So not only does the county board have some skin in the game, so to speak, but obviously the health department does too, because if the county board had to return any money, the county board would be looking to us at the health department for indemnification there as well. So there's transparency across the board, and quite frankly, the procedure that's been set up by the health department is something which I'm hoping Karen and Adam will share with the county people, so that maybe they can use that as a template for some of the other requests that we're getting from some of the other entities. So are there any other questions of Mike or the resolution regarding the budget amendment, or any comments?
Can I just make a comment, Sam?
Yes, please.
As you guys know, I'm the chairman of the finance committee, and we've had a lot of pushback from those different entities that have wanted capital, particularly the mayors and managers. They didn't want to have to document where this money was coming from or how they were going to spend it. They said, well, we're just going to submit our first responder budget and just pay that. So, well, we can't do that. What do you mean we can't do that? That's what the law says. I said, no, that's not what the law says. And we had to go back and forth with fight with them. They were trying to pull sentences out of the Treasury Department's website. And frankly, I'm sure I made some enemies in the mayors and managers, but I said, I'm not going to do this in a way that violates federal law or denies us ultimately an opportunity to keep these funds and puts us at risk of exposure down the line. Either have to get involved in litigation with our municipalities or return tens of millions of dollars of taxpayer money that we've already spent. So we've tried to do it very responsibly. I think we've got a good process in place at the county as well. And check me if I'm wrong, Stan. My understanding is this is an authorization for expenditure of up to that dollar amount, not just a check that's written to be spent. And we have to account if the money isn't spent. When you asked, I think, Laura, you asked whether or not we have to return it. Yeah, it's not there. It's not being given and say spend it. It's spending against a cap that we're authorizing for use from the county to go to the Board of Health. So if that cap isn't exhausted, then the money stays with the county and may end up having to be returned to the federal government. There's a lot of talk at the federal level. I don't think Chip's still on the line, but I know we've been talking with our lobbyists at the county that they may extend the time frame during which COVID CARES Act funds can be expended past the end of this year. And that may alter how we do things, but the county's got to look at what some of its own obligations as well. So there's a lot of elements in play there, but that's kind of the way the project's going to work.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I think Bob and I probably have our pictures on a few dartboards in some mayor's offices throughout the county, given how many times we said no over the last few months to them. But as Mike Ditka once said, this too shall pass. So we'll move forward on that. Any other questions or comments regarding this? Okay, there being none, there's a motion and a second regarding the budget amendment. Penny, please call the roll.
Dr. Wilson? Dr. Wilson?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Bottoms?
Yes.
Ms. Finch?
Yes.
Dr. Hussein,
Yes.
Mr. Larson,
Aye.
Dr. Munir,
Yes.
Dr. Scouten,
Yes.
Mr. Spadoni,
Yes.
President Tornatore,
Aye.
Dr. Weeks.
Aye.
Mr. President, the motion passes.
Thank you. And moving on to grant acceptances, unless there's anyone who wishes any of these to be pulled out separately, I will entertain a motion to combine and approve items A through double B. All grant acceptances. Does anyone have any objection to a motion to combine and approve? And if so, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to combine and approve. And I was delayed a few minutes ago because I was looking at Mr. Larson's no behind him.
I'll second the motion. I just
A motion by Dr. Wilson, a second by Member Larson. There's a motion to combine and approve all these grant acceptances. Any discussion, questions? There being none, Penny, please call the roll.
Dr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Bottoms,
Yes.
Ms. Finch,
Yes.
Dr. Hussein,
Yes.
Mr. Larson,
Aye.
Dr. Munir,
Yes.
Dr. Scouten,
Yes.
Mr. Spadoni,
Yes.
President Tornatore.
Aye.
Dr. Weeks.
Aye.
Mr. President, the motion passes.
Thank you. The motion passes and the grant acceptances are approved. Moving on to item number 5, procurement. Unless there's any objection for any individual item to be pulled, I will entertain a motion to combine and approve items 5A through W.
Sam, if I could just point out, I think we skipped 8.3, the resolution, did we?
Oh, we
For the
did it.
budget amendment?
We
We did it. Okay. All right. Thanks so much.
Sure.
I'll move to combine and approve.
And second.
The motion by Member Larson, second by Dr. Wilson to combine and approve. Any discussion, questions regarding any of the procurement items? Okay, there
I
being
would
none-
just like to,
ahead.
add to the board meeting this evening, our sincere thanks from a staff perspective for Pat Flaherty. She has been an amazing support as we have made our way through this process. And certainly she is used to managing these procurements on a pretty erratic basis sometimes because of the use of grant funds. But has really come through for us. And so I would like to just publicly thank you, Pat, for all of the work that you have done to support us. So thanks.
You're welcome.
Here. Thank you, Pat, for all you've done and all of you. Okay, any other questions, discussion regarding the procurement items? There being none, Penny, please call the roll.
Mr. Larson,
Aye.
Dr. Munir,
Yes.
Dr. Scouten,
Yes.
Mr. Spadoni,
Yes.
President Tornatore,
Aye.
Dr. Weeks,
Aye.
Dr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Bottoms,
Yes.
Ms. Finch,
Yes.
Dr. Hussein.
Yes.
Mr. President, the motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 9, unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business before the board tonight? Okay, there being none, seeing none, move on to item number 10. Is there any new business on behalf of the Health Department by any member of the board this evening? Looking at the screen, I see no hands going up. We'll move on. Moving on to item 11, executive session. We do have executive session tonight. And I will entertain a motion to move into executive session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C5 for the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
The motion by Dr. Wilson, a second by Mr. Larson. Roll call, please. Okay. Okay, we will rise back into regular session. We did not adjourn the meeting. We merely recessed it, so we're back at the meeting of the board. Moving on to item number 12 with leave of the body. I'm going to ask that item number 12 be pulled from the agenda. Is there any objection? All right, there being none, that'll be pulled at this time. Okay, moving on. It says purchase next meeting on my agenda. I'm sure the word purchase wasn't supposed to be there, but then our next meeting will be September 10th. We have no other new or old business. Has any new or old business come up since I asked you last time, about a half hour ago? Okay, there being none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Dr.
Second.
Wilson, second, member Larson. Roll call, please. Penny.
I'm sorry, who
Yes.
motioned that?
Dr. Wilson, seconded by
Okay.
member Larson.
Okay, Dr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Bottoms,
Yes.
Ms. Finch,
Yes.
Dr. Hussein,
Yes.
Mr. Larson,
Aye.
Dr. Munir,
Yes.
Dr. Scouten,
Yes.
Mr. Spadoni,
Yes.
President Tornatore,
Aye.
Dr. Weeks.
Aye.
Mr. President, the motion passes.